Think about a single photo, how it can just, freeze a moment. Not just memory, but real evidence, like a silent witness.
Mm.
Today, we're really diving deep into the life and work of Dr. Shahidul Alam. He's this internationally known photographer, writer, activist, educator from Bangladesh. Amazing figure.
Yeah, truly. And we're using excerpts from a really compelling YouTube interview he did. It was on the Bangladesh America Alliance channel.
Right. So our mission here, we want to unpack his journey, right?
Yeah.
Especially his photography and that deep commitment to social justice.
Exactly, which led him to build these incredible institutions, Drik Picture Library, Pathshala Chobi Mela Festival. We'll also look at his role in, recent political events in Bangladesh.
And the goal is to give you, the listener, a really solid understanding, efficiently but thoroughly.
Yep. We'll guide you through it, focusing on what's really key.
Okay, let's get into it. His background.
Mm.
It sounds quite academic, doesn't it?
Oh.
Middle-class family, parents were academics.
Yeah, and his sister helped him study in the UK. He was actually on track for a PhD in London, had a research post lined up.
But something shifted him.
Big time. He got involved with the Socialist Workers' Party over there, and he saw firsthand how they used photography in their campaigns, that power of the visual.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't just academic theory for him. He mentioned living under occupation, being a genocide survivor. That's heavy stuff.
Absolutely. That personal experience, it gave him this fundamental grasp of injustice. But he also got practical skills. He worked in this little London studio, the Young Rascals, was it?
The Young Rascals,
Yeah.
love that. What did he pick up there, stuff beyond the PhD track?
Well, things like how to actually talk to strangers, deal with people, and managing money. Seems basic, maybe, but he knew it was vital. He later built those skills into Pathshala, his school.
Interesting. And he came back to Bangladesh with, what was it, like 2,800 pounds?
Yeah, that was his seed capital, and that helped him set up Drik Picture Library in 1989.
Okay, Drik, what was the driving force there? Why start a picture library?
It was practical, but also deeply political. He saw how tough it was for Bangladeshi photographers to get their work seen by the big agencies in London, Paris, New York.
Barriers to entry.
Huge barriers.
Yeah.
And long waits for payment. If you need money for film now, waiting months just doesn't work.
Right. So Drik did things differently.
Completely. They paid immediately when a photo sold. That direct support was, well, crucial. But the bigger thing, really, was representation.
Ah, challenging that stereotype.
Exactly. They were so frustrated with the international media constantly showing Bangladeshis as just, icons of poverty. They wanted to control their own story.
Makes sense. To show the whole picture.
Precisely. And this really came to a head around 1990 during the resistance against General Ershad. They were documenting all this crucial stuff.
But the international media wasn't interested.
Pretty much, yeah. It was like, unless it fit the usual disaster narrative, it wasn't news. Their voices were being sidelined.
That's tough.
Then the terrible 1991 cyclone hit, and suddenly the New York Times comes calling, wanting images.
Wow. So the exact kind of disaster imagery they were trying to avoid.
Exactly. It was a real dilemma. How do you cover this tragedy without feeding the stereotype?
What did they do?
They were bold. They talked to the Times, offered a different angle, focus on resilience, recovery, community spirit.
Like showing people rebuilding.
Yeah, farmers planting again, fishermen back at sea, families taking in orphans. The strength.
And the Times went for it.
They did. The photo spread was pretty remarkable. It showed the humanity, not just the devastation, a big shift for a major paper like that.
That's a huge win for shaping the narrative. And Drik kept growing. They brought World Press Photo to Bangladesh.
Yeah, in 93. That was massive. And again, it wasn't just about photos, it was nation building. They got leaders from the opposing party.
The ones always fighting.
To cut the ribbon together, same pair of scissors.
Yeah.
Powerful symbol of unity.
Wow. But he also saw issues within Bangladesh photography, right? Not just external perception.
Definitely. He noticed it was mostly male, mostly middle-class photographers getting published. Not enough women's voices in the mainstream media.
So they started training initiatives for women.
Yes. I'm not sure if it was Drik or Pathshala initially. The timeline's a bit fuzzy in the source, but they actively worked to train women photographers. It led to the first big women's photo show at the Shilpakala Academy. A major step.
That's great. And they didn't stop there. They reached out to other groups, too.
They did. They started training working-class kids in photography. The interview mentions this woman, Molly. She ended up a senior editor at a TV channel. Others became colleagues at Drik. It was about democratizing the camera, really.
Which seems like a perfect lead-in to founding Pathshala in 1998.
Exactly. A logical next step. He described it as needing to fight an information war. The goal was to train the next generation of, as he put it, information warriors.
To counter that dominant Western narrative.
Right. Empower local voices to tell their own stories.
And Pathshala's growth is just
Yeah.
incredible.
Isn't it? When it started in 98, he was the only local teacher. Now, 24 out of 26 teachers are former students.
Wow. That shows real sustainability, ownership.
Totally. They're now leading the place. It's amazing.
But Alam also wanted to break photography out of the sort of elite gallery scene. That's Chobi Mela.
Spot on. He saw how galleries felt inaccessible, both in Bangladesh and elsewhere. He'd invite working-class friends to his shows, and they just wouldn't come. Felt intimidated, maybe?
So Chobi Mela took the art to the people.
Literally. Mobile exhibits. They took them to schools, playing fields, on boats, into bazaars. Direct engagement. That's really unique about the festival, democratizing art, not just making it.
And they were ahead of the curve with technology, too.
Yeah, Chobi Mela used video conferencing way early on, like getting Noam Chomsky, talking to Mahesh Rangarajan, connecting people across continents before Zoom was even a thing. Pretty innovative back then.
That's seriously forward-thinking. And Drik itself played a role in bringing tech to Bangladesh.
Yeah, Drik was key in introducing email to the country in the late 90s. They saw it as another tool, alongside photos and words in their battle for communication and representation.
It's amazing how these places, Drik, Pathshala, Chobi Mela, have survived, even thrived, despite all the political and economic pressure. How?
Okay, this is really important. Drik isn't an NGO. It's set up as a private, limited company, but with a social justice mission baked in, not just profit.
So it's self-sufficient, not reliant on government or NGO grants.
Exactly. That financial independence is the key. It shields them from the kinds of restrictions NGOs often face. It lets them speak truth to power, challenge things.
And that independence was tested, wasn't it? Like when Alam was imprisoned in 2018.
Massively tested. But Chobi Mela went ahead anyway. That event with Arundhati Roy.
Right, the venue got canceled last minute.
Yeah. But they found another space, and like 1,000 people crammed in, sitting on the floor to hear her. That kind of defiance got noticed even by people outside the arts. They were like, how do they do that?
And Pathshala getting global recognition next to places like the Royal College of Art. That's huge, given the context.
It really is. The British Journal of Photography recognized them. Shows the impact they're having, despite, limited resources compared to London.
It all really points to Alam's core belief, doesn't it? Education, art, photography as tools for liberation, for democracy.
Absolutely. And he's quite critical of how the previous regime damaged the education system. He argues for prioritizing investment, depoliticizing schools, and teaching critical thinking, not just rote memorization.
He even suggested using state TV, Bangladesh television, for education.
Yeah, using the infrastructure that's already there. Plus things like training rural journalists, adding public interest journalism to photo contests, even allowing critiques of the government. It's all about fostering diverse, critical voices.
And Pathshala is focused on making good citizens, not just good photographers.
That's the goal. Creative learning, critical thinking. Equipping people to understand power and contribute. Which brings us to the really recent stuff, the July Revolution of 2024. BD 2.0, they call it.
Right, the student-led uprising that overthrew the government. Alam was right in the thick of it leading up to that.
Oh, yeah. It really kicked off, or the seeds were sown, back in 2018 with the road safety movement. That protest exposed all the public anger about corruption, nepotism, extrajudicial killings, state-sanctioned killings.
And Alam was attacked covering that.
Yeah, his gear was smashed. And then later that year, after he gave an interview speaking out, he was arrested.
Forcibly taken, tortured.
Yes.
Ambulance.
Blindfolded, tortured, imprisoned. But when he got out, he refused to be silenced. He kept speaking out. And Drik kept pushing boundaries, facing shutdowns, attacks.
And the public support grew. People started taking risks for him.
They did. It shifted. People were willing to stand up with him, despite the danger. So when the July 2024 movement really took off, even with internet blackouts, Alam and others found ways, often risky ways, to get information out. That fueled the protests.
And it wasn't just students, right? It was broader.
Much broader. Working class, richer folks, men, women, even kids. Seeing parents bring their children to protests, knowing the risks, that showed how deep the desire for change was.
And then August 5th, the regime falls. The euphoria.
Huge euphoria. People compared it to the spirit of 1971, the Liberation War, just this incredible sense of possibility.
So in the aftermath, he's involved with Voice for Reform. What's that about?
It's trying to make sure the average person's voice is heard now, post-revolution. Not just the political parties or big organizations. They're engaging with the new government, political groups, experts, trying to keep the focus on the key issues.
Kind of keeping that people power alive, holding the new system accountable.
That's the idea, keeping the ideals of 71 and 24 alive. They're also working to support the injured and the families of those killed during the uprising. It's a huge task.
And they see the existing bureaucracy as a big challenge.
Oh, yeah. Real systemic change is needed to stop things sliding back. They've got a big forum planned for May 11th, bringing everyone together for dialogue.
And the diaspora, Bangladeshis abroad, they have a role too.
Crucial role, he believes. Their engagement is vital. And Alam's got other projects, too. A film with Nat Geo about the Buriganga River.
Oh, wow. An environmental campaign.
Yeah, raise awareness, push for restoration, plus a mentorship program for student leaders, getting them ready for the future. He's also doing talks in the UK, at Parliament and SOS to counter misinformation about Bangladesh.
Busy man. And a song by Redone.
Apparently, the guy who worked with Lady Gaga, Madonna, a celebratory song for Bangladesh. Quite a mix of projects.
That's a credible range. So what's his core advice for young people, artists, journalists, activists starting out?
His main message is just never give up. Remember the strength of the people, of collective action, and crucially, self-reflection.
Meaning?
Acknowledge how the silence of good people can let bad things happen. Don't repeat that. Stay vigilant always against anything anti-democratic.
And looking ahead, what gives him hope for Bangladesh?
It's the energy, he says.
Yeah.
The energy of the July Revolution and the 2018 movement before it. It's the youth. The fact that people, especially Gen Z, are more politically aware, more vocal, learning from the past to build something better, more inclusive.
His whole story, it's just such a powerful testament to, well, visual storytelling, but also civic action, resilience.
Yeah, the importance of truth-telling, especially when it's dangerous.
So as you, our listener, think about all this, maybe consider the power of your own voice, how you can contribute to democracy, to justice, wherever you are. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. How can we all individually help protect these hard-won freedoms, that spirit of change, whether it's in Bangladesh or right here? What does it really take to never stay silent?